the chairman of the Joint Chiefs has informed me that we are prepared to strike whenever we choose. Moreover, the chairman has indicated to me that our capacity to execute this mission is not time sensitive. It will be effective tomorrow, or next week, or 1 month from now. And I'm prepared to give that order.
Not time sensitive, the president said in the Rose Garden. Bring in reaction from the panel here to what the president just said. Again, Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace, Fox News political analyst Juan Williams, Fox News contributor Steve Hayes of the Weekly Standard, and syndicated columnist Fox News contributor Charles Krauthammer. Okay, Charles, you've had time to digest this and listen to all of our reactions. Any more thoughts on this action and where we stand?
Well, my astonishment has only increased here. This isn't about forensics. Who cares about the details of the attack? We're way beyond the theatrics. You know, I grieve for the dead children, but there are hundreds of thousands of others who've died from other weapons. We are, I think, beyond even the military strategics of this. I would have opposed a limited strike because I think it's not what you want to do. You want to do a strike that's going to affect the battle that's happening in Syria today and tilt it against the government. But at this point, what's at stake is the word of the United States, and that overrides everything. Can you imagine? We talked about the jubilation. We heard about jubilation in Damascus, obviously in Iran, in Russia, and elsewhere. But imagine the demoralization, not just among the rebels who are looking up to the sky and looking for assistance, but among all the states in the region who live on the word of the United States, on Jordan, on the Saudis, on the Kuwaitis, the Omanis, the Yemenites, even Israel and Egypt to a large extent. And they hear a president who has no idea what he's doing and speaks about this in a leisurely way, will take off in a couple of days, end up in Sweden and in Moscow when all of this is happening. What the president ought to do, and I can't believe that he actually decided otherwise, was to bring in Congress tomorrow. We have Reagan Airport, we got National Airport, we got Dulles, BWI, and you can use the Air Force. You bring in the members of Congress, you have a debate for 2 days, and you have a resolution. You can't leave the region hanging. It looks absolutely as if the United States has chickened out. And that's the work of the presidents because of the way he did this. And even though I think a limited attack is not the right thing to do, at this point he has to do something, or we will have reached the lowest ebb of American influence in the region since 1970.
Juan, to that point, why not call Congress back? You know, give them Labor Day and get them back here Tuesday.
Look, I think that you're all operating from a set of beliefs that somehow time makes a difference, and you see a value to urgent action.
If you live, as Charles said, in the neighborhood,
yeah,
and the guy has just deployed chemical weapons,
it makes a difference. No, I think the argument would be to Charles, if you think that the president mishandled this situation initially and should have gone in earlier when he could have done more in terms of arming the rebels or somehow defeating the military capability of the Assad regime, let it be. But at this point, you have to deal with the reality that right now we don't know about all the consequences of missile strikes inside of Syria. We don't know that it helps the rebels. We don't know if it helps al-Qaeda. We don't know if it helps Assad. There's a lot of questions there. And that's why, to come back to something that was said earlier, this has a very strong political taint. If you want to say Obama's weak, you know why he's weak? It's not because of failure to act. It's because 80% of the American people think he shouldn't act. 80%.
Of course. But you were on this panel on Special Report this week saying that presidents can't operate by polls.
Correct.
Now,
that's why
is this president operating by polls, do you think?
Well, I just said that to you. I don't think there's any question. He is responding to polls. He's responding to people within his own party. He's responding to Joe Manchin. He's responding, to my mind, to Carl Levin. He's responding to libertarians like Rand Paul, who oppose it. He's not listening to John Kerry. He's not listening to John McCain. They're hardliners. They want him to go, and go now.
Charles, your response?
The time he should have been listening is before he made the announcement that we have to act, before Kerry said in front of the world that the word of America is at stake, before the entire administration leaked the plans and explained exactly why it had to act. Right now, we're way beyond the other arguments. We're way beyond the polls, way beyond the issues of is this the best way to attack? Again, I think it's not.
I don't think, Charles, at this point, Charles, it doesn't matter if they know.
You cannot be the president of the United States.
You've got to listen for a second to Martin Dempsey. If the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says to you, it doesn't matter if we go tomorrow, it doesn't matter if we go next week, we will still have an effective military strike against Assad, we will hurt Assad, then that opens the window to this discussion that so many Americans want to take place.
Juan, there is no doubt that we can hurt Assad. And I don't think the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is the one who decides how America should act as a way to uphold its word and its strength in the region. He tells the president what could work, what doesn't. We all agree it could work depending on how you design it. The question is, once you've announced a week ago you are about to do a coalition,
right,
this cannot stand. Everything hinges on American response and will. You cannot step away and say, well, I'm going to Sweden. We will talk about this, and perhaps we're going to act in a month. Everybody in the region understands what's happening here. The president flinched.
Chris Wallace.
I don't think so.
Well, I have to, if I'm the tiebreaker here, I'm going to go on with Charles Krauthammer. I would just love to know what happened in the last 24 hours between John Kerry's speech and the president's speech today.
Because the context of listening to John Kerry's speech and then to listen to the Rose Garden today is striking.
Exactly. That's the point, is that when John Kerry spoke yesterday, it was a call to arms. He said, we know. And I think he said, we know 24 times. We know this fact. We know this fact. We know that this matters. We know it matters to not just to Syria. It matters to countries all throughout the region. It matters to North Korea and Hezbollah and Iran. It was a call to arms. All the papers in America, and frankly all the newscasts last night, were all talking about we are on the brink of taking military action. Was it going to be today? Was it going to be tomorrow? But it was about to happen. And then for the president, less than 24 hours later, to come out and say, well, I've decided we are going to act. But while I have that authority as the commander-in-chief, I am going to wait for 2 weeks, not call Congress into special session within a day or two. I'm going to wait for a week or 10 days, go off to Sweden, go off to Europe, all of these other events, all these other distractions, and then Congress is going to get back and they're going to discuss it, and the real possibility that Congress will vote it down, yes, that will get the president off the hook, but if you believe what John Kerry said yesterday about the world is listening and waiting to see what America's word is worth, does the commander-in-chief really want to take that risk?